So Jake Sullivan has finally visited China. It would, as many commentators have pointed out, be a very unusual term as National Security Advisor if he'd left office without a trip to China. But let's be honest, he probably thinks he'll be out of a job in a few months, so it really was now or never. If I'm being honest here, I'm a little disappointed that Xi Jinping gave him that opportunity, but he did, and it was well taken, although the body language, the facial expressions, and the information coming out of his visit all seemed to indicate, to me anyway, that the journey was wasted. China's Global Times highlighted the most important thing that China keeps stating, and that is that China's position hasn't changed at all, and that the US needs to view China's development in a rational way. It isn't too much to ask, but when we see comments that Sullivan made on his way home, calling for their stance on microchips or calling that a success because China is suffering, it really must make people wonder, what was that all about? This has nothing to do with fair competition, nothing to do with Chinese people getting a fair go. That's now very much confirmed. The US would like to see Chinese people wallowing in poverty for another 100 years or more. Imagine that. The audacity of a man coming from the richest country in the world and deeming that a trade restriction policy on another country is a success because the country is, as reported in a direct quote to Bloomberg, severely hurting. I can't think of a worse way to end a tenure in the White House administration than by admitting you want to see people living in poverty as long as you can retain your own top spot. But that's exactly what the Biden administration has spent the last 4 years attempting to do and failing miserably. On a positive note, Western media reports all indicate that China has agreed to curb and control exports of fentanyl. But they did that many years ago under the Trump administration in 2019. And then they reiterated it when Blinken was here recently. So that was old news. It might look good in headlines before the election, but it's old news. For the record, it was also stated in the Xi-Biden meeting in San Francisco because cooperation on that had fallen away after Pelosi's ill-advised visit to Taiwan. China and the US have agreed to restart military-to-military communications, but they had that one locked away months ago. In fact, it was reported in October 2023, I've linked that this would be reinstated, and that another cooperation that China had agreed to long ago was suspended when Pelosi and others visited a province of China against the wishes of both China's and their own president. They've agreed to tackle carbon emissions, but what the heck does that mean? China's been doing that without the US for several years and is already so well ahead of any developments in carbon emissions with more solar and more wind power and more EVs than the rest of the world combined. There are disputes as to when this actually happened, but it's clear that China has now peaked and is reducing carbon emissions already. So what did Jake Sullivan actually achieve when he was here? Everything he seems to be bragging about is history. He stated to President Xi that the US position on China's One China policy has not changed, and that the US did not seek to use Taiwan to control or contain China. And the US may very well say they don't seek conflict with China, but in my opinion, the only reason that would be is because they want others to fight that battle for them. China has reiterated, as it always does, that it will not be invading Taiwan anytime soon. It will simply defend Taiwan if others attempt to take it away. And as far as I can see, there was no mention of Russia or Ukraine, which many speculated he was here to talk about. On a good point, there will be trade talks in China next week, and that's a great thing because talking is always better than walking. So really, once again, we have a situation where the US has come to China. They've made overtures about what China should do. They've threatened China. They've cajoled and they've attempted to manipulate or influence China. But the bottom line, Jake Sullivan did get exactly what he wanted in coming here. He got a great photo for the wall of his den and the glossy cover of his upcoming book. As far as I can see, That's the only achievement that he made. Everything else is history. Thanks once again for watching my take on China. Please don't forget, check that subscribe button, like and share. You have my permission. I'll see you next time, and bye for now.